with Candace Parker making her decision and deciding to sign with the Las Vegas Aces, all eyes are moving towards Courtney Vandersloot and where is she going to go and if she's going to return to the franchise that she's played 12 seasons with, and that is the Chicago Sky. We're going to look at that, what her and Allie Quigley could do in this upcoming free agency. We're also going to look at some news around the WNBA. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
All right, Chicago Sky fans, welcome to Chicago Sky Central. I'm the host here, Haize. And so before we get into the Chicago Sky news, we're going to talk about some news from around the WNBA. So we have two more signings that I want to talk about. And the first one is Brittney Sykes, who signed a 3-year deal with the Washington Mystics. Now, she's played her last 3 seasons with the Los Angeles Sparks. She now is moving on to the Mystics, and she is still only 28 years old, still has a heck of a long career in front of her, especially as WNBA players are just playing longer and longer. But last season, her numbers were 12 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and 2 steals. That's almost 12, 4, 4, and 2 that she averaged. And she joins that Washington Mystics team and, just continues to add talent there. Now, with her signing there, it's sent Alysha Clark, who played her last season with the Washington Mystics, left a spot or not a spot open for her, and she decides to sign with the Las Vegas Aces. And the Aces still may not be done after now signing Clark and Candace Parker, may not be done adding talent to that roster. And so it's going to remain to be seen. Like I said, it's been quite an eventful offseason even so far in the WNBA, and we still waiting Breanna Stewart and her decision. It seems like she's narrowed her list down to either the Storm or the Liberty. So it seems like, especially if those rumors are true that she wants to play with Vandersloot, it looks like the Sky may be out on that one. And so wherever she ends up going, it's going to be if she does go to Liberty specifically, it's going to be yet another tidal wave in the WNBA free agencies. We just continue to see where all the chips are going to fall heading into the next season in the W. Now, one of the players that we just talked about is Courtney Vandersloot. And she is, I've told you guys before, I look at Slooty as almost a Chicago sports legend. That's just my personal opinion on it. All 12 seasons of her WNBA career have been played in Chicago. And she is the Sky career leader in minutes played, field goal attempts, assists, steals, and turnovers. And so the question remains, what is going to happen with her? And if she does leave, how big of a hole is that going to be for the Chicago Sky to fill? And we still don't know just how active the Sky plan on being in free agency. So I do think, we talked about a little bit before with the new co-owner, things like that this is going to be a team that does look to try to stay competitive and be financially responsible. And Courtney Vandersloot, if she does leave, it shouldn't be too shocking. Keep in mind, she still took meetings with teams even last offseason before ultimately deciding to sign a 1-year deal to come back to the Chicago Sky and try to, repeat as champion. So with Candace Parker leaving, and with Courtney Vandersloot being at the place she is in her career, already 33 years old, playing 12 seasons, she's given everything she can to the Chicago Sky, winning a title here. And so does she look to move on? Does she look to ring chase? Does she look to join and pair with a Breanna Stewart so they can do a pairing and maybe dominate that way? So there's a lot of questions remaining around this. And while Sloot in some ways didn't have necessarily the impact in some games, some of the important games that we're used to seeing from Slooty, but we know how she can shoot. We know what she can be. And even though I've talked about her leaving could open the door for Dana Evans to get a much bigger spot in the rotation, deservedly so. If you look at the way she's played overseas, it's just something to remain just to see, if Sloot leaves, it's just going to be an awkward feeling. The Candace Parker leaving sucked. And I know for a lot of Sky fans, especially, there are a lot of Sky fans that came on board after Candace Parker came to the franchise. But for, me and someone who's watched the Chicago Sky for years, really, Slooty's just an institution with that franchise. I really think of her and the Sky almost hand in hand. And as I said, she leads so many career stats for the Chicago Sky in her time here. It would suck to see her go, but that's just kind of how sports go. Eventually, people move on, and not everyone retires with the same team that they played with. And, a player of her ilk and of her status, if she did want a ring chase, it's completely understandable. Not to say that I would love it to happen, but it is understandable. And so continue to look. And then the question also remains, what's going on with Allie Quigley, her wife, right? Are they a package deal? If Sloot does leave, does that just already writing on the wall that Quigley's also going to leave? Her, a 10-year veteran with the Sky as well. She leads the Sky in field goals made, 3 points and points overall for the Chicago Sky's franchise. So if Sloot and Quigley are both to leave, whether they both sign elsewhere, Quigley retires and Vandersloot goes on somewhere else, it's gonna be such an interesting just how the Chicago Sky team retools, because you're then going forth without two people who have just been on this team for so long. And so, it's an interesting new era in a lot of ways. We're moving into a new era for the Chicago Sky either way. And so if this is a changing of the guard truly, and these two players who have been here with this franchise for over a decade eventually move on in whatever ways they do, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. And so, in moving on from that, the Chicago Sky have a lot of decisions to make in free agency, and some of those decisions are gonna be made out of their hands. And their hand may be forced. And as we look at teams that are going to be able to compete for a title in the W next season, the Chicago Sky, unless they plan and have some moves up their sleeves that we necessarily don't see, or we see huge growth, if a player like Dana Evans does thrust into a larger position, just grows exponentially. And, if we do re-sign Ima Mieseman, who some people even have some issues with the season she had last year for the Sky, it's just going to be, it's a off season of change for the Chicago Sky, either way that you look at it. And, we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to talk about it here at Chicago Sky Central. Again, posting more regularly, especially with everything picking up around the WNBA and free agency. And considering free agency officially opens up Wednesday, don't be surprised if we look to do something Wednesday, maybe a live stream or something to kind of monitor and watch the free agent tracker. So anything, let me know your thoughts, feelings on everything down below. If you're on the YouTube side, or if you're on the podcast side, please feel free to email us, and I'll tell you guys how to do that here in just a second. But that is it for today's episode of Chicago Sky Central. You can follow the show at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform. If you want to send us any feedback or anything like that, you can do so at ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail, try to do some mailback episodes here and there. So if you want to leave a voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky related. Like I liked it and everything. Go Sky. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.